right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the CSCB Impromptu Coffee Hour. We had, I know we originally canceled our January session, but we had a great opportunity to have Julie Mileham, who's the Director of the State Office of Risk Management, come and present on the option for professional liability for the conservation district. So we will have this recorded and we will get her presentation to be able to share with you all after this presentation. With that, I'll turn it over to Julie. Thanks, Julie.
Good morning, everyone. Like Nikki said, I'm Julie Milam, and I'm the Director of the State Office of Risk Management. And with me today, I have Suzanne Kubik, and she is our liability manager. I think it's her real title. I just call her my brain. Suzanne works with our broker on insurance renewal, and then all lawsuits that come in. We have another liability manager in our office, Lee Taylor, that works on claims that are before their lawsuits. So some names you might see. Also on the call with us today is Will Allen, who is the AG, the first AG from the tort unit, and is our risk management attorney that works with us directly. So wrote the memo that you've all seen. We are making some changes in the tort unit at the AG's office, so you may not see Will going forward, but he is here to answer questions as well. So I'll go and get started. When we send you the presentation, the links will be live, so you'll be able to visit our website, email and contact us, that sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you want to save your questions till the end, we can go through everything, and then I can add frequently asked questions to the slideshow, that kind of stuff based on what we talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. These are both of the memos that you probably already received that talk about the laws and the statutes that allow you as conservation districts to join the state risk management pool, and then our contact information. So those will be there, so you'll have everything in one place. I was going to talk a little bit about what state risk management is and what we do, how we're funded and how things happen, what professional liability insurance is, those kinds of things. So the State Office of Risk Management was created through legislation when it became very difficult for state entities to purchase insurance. So the legislature created self-insured pools that allow us to the State Risk Management Office to service the insurance needs of all state agencies. And that includes boards and commissions, judicial, all the state agencies. We work with the community colleges. You'll see a list in a few minutes of all the agencies that we work with. In that legislation, one of the pools that they created was general liability, which includes professional liability, which we will be able to share with the conservation districts. So, which is also, when you're working with your insurance agents and brokers, probably called errors and omissions. So that's why I listed that in there. And I'm going to go through what that means, different from general liability insurance. One of the primary things that we do is provide defense for claims and lawsuits that come in against state agencies. So we work with the Attorney General's office, a variety of units at the Attorney General's office too. The tort unit, the employment unit, the workers' compensation unit are all partners with the State Office of Risk Management. We settle those claims, and we have the authority to financially settle those claims and pay any judgments if we do go to trial on those matters. So I was going to talk a little bit about what a self-insured pool is. Normally, a self-insured pool is a group of similarly situated entities that come together to share their risk and share those costs across the group. The state of Colorado departments and entities are not similarly situated other than their state agencies. So we run the gamut of things that we work with. We work with Department of Corrections. We work with Department of Transportation. Here in Department of Personnel Administration, we work with agencies on a variety of things, from forms and mail all the way to HR functions. So we run the gamut. Just within the Department of Agriculture, which you all work with, we have a lot of different programs that we work with. So it's a varied soup of everything that we do here. All state agencies participate in the state risk management pool, except for a few of our higher education institutes. The large universities left state risk management in 2008 or 2009 when they were allowed to become more autonomous outside of state government. So the agencies that participate pay a contribution, which is very similar to the premiums that you all already pay. And that contribution comes into the pool and we manage all that purchasing of excess insurance, claims management, legal issues, contract issues, those kinds of things. So by contract issues, I mean writing of contracts and insurance sections in the contracts, those kinds of things, not claims related to contracts. So contributions are based on the individual agency's loss history, as well as a projection of what future losses could be and could cost us. That's based on an actuarial study of the rest of the country, essentially, and those types of claims. For a conservation district, that would be based on how large the area is that you work in, how many employees you have, how many board members you have, and if you have any loss history. All of that would be calculated into that contribution. This is a list of all of the pool members that are within the State Office of Risk Management. The main benefit of pooling is it allows you to purchase on a grand scale when you're looking at purchasing insurance. And it levels the playing field between large losses and small losses. So our large entities realize a savings that they have based on our small entities having less losses. And so it kind of levels that playing field for all members within the pool. So that gives you an idea of that. I wanted to talk specifically about what professional liability is and how it differs from general liability, because as a commission or as a conservation district, you probably buy both types of insurance. In some cases, professional liability is wrapped into your general liability policy. Because we're a self-insured entity, ours is that way. And when we buy excess insurance, it's a package policy that includes professional liability. If you are buying your professional liability separately, you would be able to join the pool, probably realize a significant savings in your contribution, and then still have your general liability be separate. So professional liability is a liability coverage that protects you or responds to claims based on the decisions that you make. So if you're involved in a situation where you're purchasing land or working on an easement or something, and the person you're working with believes that you made a wrong decision that cost them some type of a loss, normally financial or economic under professional liability, they could file a claim against your organization, and we would then step in and defend that. It's different under general liability, and I left that definition in there because general liability normally includes bodily injury and property damage. And what you'll see under professional liability is truly based on the decisions that you made that caused an economic impact to the claimant. Professional liability policies also have what's called shrinking limits, meaning that your defense normally comes from your the total amount that you have. If you have $1 million and you spend $250,000 on defense coverage, that has shrunk the limits of what you have left available in your professional liability policy. That does not happen in the state insurance pool. It's all together within that claim that you have. The limits that are set are based on governmental immunity and those kinds of things, and most of what would happen in these professional type claims fall under those limits. So if the claim happens to fall within those waived areas, which we can talk a little bit more about in a second. So how we got here is through the Soil Conservation Act, and which is noted there, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, that allows the districts to come to the State Office of Risk Management for professional liability. The statute does say that districts would pay a contribution to the risk management pool for that coverage and defense. So I just put that statute in there. Again, I just want to point out again, it's just for professional liability. It's not for the general liability coverage that we have there. So a little bit about what would happen if you decide that you want to be a member of the state risk management pool. And it's not required by the act that you become a member. So each district can decide that on their own. So we will start our insurance renewal process here very soon. Within the next couple of weeks, we'll start that. So if that's something that you're interested in, we would ask for some information from you, and then we would provide that to our actuary as we move forward with the renewal process. Our policies and processes all follow the fiscal year, so that would be effective July 1st. So if that's something you're interested in, you might want to start working on gathering up this information. An overview of your district that would include your area employees, the members of your district, kind of a little bit about what the work that you do and that kind of thing. A very important part of it would be a loss history from your current insurance company. I feel like the brokers and the carriers are going to ask for all your losses, not just professional liability, because what they want to see is if you had any losses under the general liability category that could have been professional. They're going to want to take a look at that, especially if your policy is wrapped together, that you have general liability and professional liability together. So they're going to want to see that. And then to be available to respond to any questions from our insurance broker or the actuary as we begin that process. So unfortunately, it's a long process for us, and we may not have numbers for you until around the 1st of June and on what that contribution will be. The information goes to the actuary usually in April, and then they work through all the loss history and everything and get us those numbers. And then payment would be made to the Department of Agriculture, as you will fall under them as an entity. And then you'll make that payment to the Department of Agriculture, and they'll make those payments then to risk management. And we work through that process with the Department of Agriculture, so we're all set to go there. So that's just a really brief overview. What I really want to hear from you are the questions that you have. What I cannot tell you today is how much it will cost, because I know that that's probably something that you're very interested in. I feel like it's not going to be a significant amount for you. I don't have a good sense of what you guys are all paying for your professional liability right now, but I feel like it's going to be, without a loss history, I think it'll be very small. The risks are, when you look at the state risk management pool as a whole, are very probably a small risk for the conservation district. So Will and Suzanne, if you want to jump in with anything I said wrong or missed on. I mentioned governmental immunity just a hair. And government, I'm not sure how much you all know about that part of the work that you do being protected by the Immunity Act. So would it be beneficial to have Will do a real brief summary about that? Can I put you on the spot, Will?
If he's okay with that, it would be great.
Okay.
I'd be happy to. What do you want to, or what do you want me to discuss exactly?
Do you want to do just a real quick overview of immunity and how it protects?
Sure. So as the insurance, the protection we're talking about here is professional liability insurance. That's all we have. We don't have automobile and things like that, as far as I know, right, Julie?
Correct. Yes.
So basically, when you're considered state employee, well, the members of each conservation district are considered state employees for the purposes of the Governmental Immunity Act, meaning if they do something to damage someone or somehow incur liability, they are immune in most situations. If they happen, and if they get sued, the attorneys in the tort litigation unit would defend them. Chances are whatever they did would not fall into a waived area under the Governmental Immunity Act. So in other words, most lawsuits against or claims against members of the conservation districts would fail. But we would take care of all that, defend the lawsuit, and then if it got dismissed, and risk management pays that bill based on you guys paying into it's basically insurance, obviously. And that's really about it. We would just step in and be your lawyer, so your the members' lawyers.
And one of the things that we would do is probably work closely with your general liability carrier on that process, because there's a very blurry line between general liability and professional oftentimes. And so what you would probably do is put your general liability carrier on notice, and then we would work with you on that professional liability claim, just because there's that gray area. A lot of times those claims come with damages, which is what we work on through the defense and settlement process if it goes to that level. So that is something that we do quite often, is work that the attorneys in the Attorney General's office work very closely with carriers at different levels. So that's something that they're very familiar with. So Cindy raised her hand, I think.
Hi, a question I have. So I've worked for the state for a long time, and gosh, I think it was back in 2006 and 7 that I was working with Marky Davis on some of this for the conservation districts. And one of the points she made, and I wanted to get your clarification on this, if this is the direction you agree with, was that for the Office of Risk Management to defend a case that came to the conservation district, let's say, this would be for matters that were really decided upon by the board in a formal board meeting with notes, with actual approved minutes showing that this decision was made in a way that was moved, seconded, and passed and recorded in the minutes, as opposed to, oh, well, they left, I'm trying to think of a situation where maybe an employee sold the wrong kind of seed or something, but it wasn't recorded in the minutes. That might not be something that was that would be defensible by the Office of Risk Management, for example. And it's a poor example that I used, but I'm just trying to think of something that would not have been approved through a motion in a formal board meeting.
Right. So go ahead,
Julie.
Well, it falls to the official actions of the board members and their decisions that cause an economic loss to another party. So your example isn't a terrible one, and what I would recommend if you're unsure is reach out to us and we can look through the specifics of the claim in and of itself. What it does not cover are things like somebody, number one, if they were in an auto accident, even if they were driving a state vehicle, because I know some districts have vehicles from the Department of Agriculture, that's a separate issue. It specifically does not cover damages or injuries related to an auto accident. What it also wouldn't cover was somebody went out, say with a board member to a location and they slipped and fell and hurt themselves. That is definitely a general liability claim. If they were on state property, we might handle that in a different way, because that's state property is covered. So it depends on, I know the districts work on oftentimes other people's property, and so those issues fall to that general liability situation.
Anything that they were doing in their official capacity, it doesn't necessarily have to be a memorialized board action.
Right.
But if they were out, because if I remember correctly, sometimes one or more of the members will go out and look at a property or do something. If they accidentally, they're out with a member of the public and they accidentally tripped that person, right? Like they all fell down together or something, it would cover, that's more or less professional liability. They're in it seems unlikely, right? But in other words, it doesn't have to be like an official decision. It can be a negligent act while they're acting and while they're doing their state job.
And
Okay.
that's a good example of one that I would probably file under general liability and professional, because there's the damages could kind of cross over in that respect. And that's what the challenge of professional liability is. Sometimes it's very blurry and we're not sure which exactly it would be. The immunity protections that you have, though, as a member of the board do roll over to your general liability. So the insurance policy that you have needs to understand that you do have that immunity in place. That's a weird concept for an insurance company. I'm not going to lie. They see that in a whole different way than government employees see that. Carriers are interested in settling and getting the process there. So if you have questions and you're a member in the professional pool, we can help you answer some of those questions as you move along too.
Thank you for that.
Will's example is a good one. Yeah.
And the better example that I should have used was a lot of conservation districts receive land use plans and development plans to review and give feedback on maybe erosion control or water quality problems or different things that could be a negative impact from a natural resources perspective locally. And if they maybe objected to the plan that was submitted to them and gave reasons for it, then I was thinking, well, gosh, maybe that developer might come back after the district and say, oh my gosh, we have an economic hardship because of your comments here.
Exactly.
And that's a better example of somebody having an economic impact because of a decision made by a conservation district.
Correct. Yeah, that's a great example. So they say they review those plans and they make a suggestion, maybe, I don't know anything about conservation districts, but maybe you say, instead of having this ditch go this far, you have it go a shorter amount or a longer amount, and something happens because of that decision. That's exactly the type of thing that would be a professional liability. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that happened in that meeting, but in your official capacity, you're meeting with this landowner and something comes from that conversation that they believe that they've had a loss from. That would definitely be a professional liability situation. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Julie, we have a question in the chat from Debbie that currently they have public officials and management liability as part of their general liability policy. Is that the same as professional liability?
Yes. Yep. That's the same. When you read through that definition, you'll see there's some language that overlaps, but it's that errors and omissions is really what you're wanting to look for. It's usually a called out section. Again, it can be part of a package policy with your liability, but it'll have that errors and omissions, and it specifically excludes bodily injury and property damage losses. Yeah, they get creative sometimes with the language that they use.
Okay, we have another one. Based on governmental immunity, does the district need public official insurance? That might be similar to your other answer.
It's something that I recommend, yes, either through the professional liability pool or a policy that you have that includes it, because your general liability policy, without that being included, could exclude errors and omissions type claims. Some policies do that. So you want to review that policy and see if it has that ability to cover those in there. Some of them are packages, especially for districts that are as small as some of you are. It probably is a package type policy, so you'll want to make sure that it's in there. But yeah, I would recommend it for sure.
Okay. Any other questions out there? I have a feeling we'll be getting several after a little bit of digestion, and once we share the links out and everyone else gets a chance to read it and catch up, you'll probably get very busy with some phone calls. But
yes, and that's wonderful. That's what we're here for. We're happy to help. As you start what I suspect is that the districts have all different renewal dates on your insurance policy. So as you start that renewal process, feel free to reach out to us. If it's something that you're already in and say you want to join, like your renewal is in October, we can work with you on that. it'll be a little challenging, but we can definitely make that work so that you could join, say, off cycle if you have a different insurance renewal time period, that sort of thing. So when you start working with your brokers and agents on that policy renewal, let us know. I do know a lot of you are members of the special districts pool too, I believe. And I'm not 100% certain on their renewal date if it's 7/1, but again, as you start that process, feel free to reach out to us. And what we would do is prorate that from whatever day we bring you into the pool through June 30th. But we would just have to, there's a couple steps we would have to take actuarially, but I know that we could work through that for sure.
Okay, thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
I'll do one last call for questions.
Okay.
If anybody has one for chat or wants to unmute, go ahead.
Julie, did you,
Yeah.
I may have missed it. It seems like, because most of the districts probably have their own current insurance, there's some parts of their current insurance they could get rid of, right?
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know exactly, there is overlap in there, but I think they can probably get rid of at least one part of their current insurance, the professional liability, and we're going to bleed over into their general, as you said. Lots of these claims will be sort of both, so we can handle both of those without them making they can make a claim, but they probably won't have any meaningful claim on lots of their insurance once they have this insurance in place. I mean, you may have, I didn't hear if you said, I don't know how you guys make that distinction. I'm not an insurance guy exactly.
and really it's because the only thing we have to go with right now is that loss history that you've had. I suspect that that's a very small history, so that will help us. But what we would do going forward are, as the claims come in, we would do that initial evaluation. So when say you get a claim and you call your broker and you say, hey, I want to file this claim with liability, what I would do at the same time is reach out to us and we can take a look at it and do a quick evaluation on if we think it's one or the other or both, and then make some decisions about going forward with that. Because the act is very clear that it's really just that professional liability. But as Will said, sometimes they kind of run together. And so we would just have to kind of do that on a case-by-case basis. I know that's not a great answer and it's not very comforting, but we do that a lot with entities that we work with, especially when we have a contractor or subcontractor and there's multiple parties involved. That's something that the AGs are very, very used to, and risk management is used to. So.
We did have a chat come in from Margaret. Is belonging to the pool usually cheaper than other insurance?
Yes, I would say that most likely you're going to see a savings on that. I can't give you a good number because it is going to be based individually on your loss history, but I would say that you'll see a fairly decent savings off your professional liability because there's security in numbers. The pool itself and our excess carriers spread that risk out among all the members. And so I think that you would probably see a fairly good size savings. I don't know a lot about the special districts pool, but if that's a self-insured group, which I believe that it is, you're probably seeing some of those benefits already, but especially on the general liability. But because your work is kind of specific and that there is an exposure on that professional liability, we probably would be able to see a savings for you in this pool. Unfortunately, if you have a July 1st renewal, I know it's a really short timeline that we would see those numbers in June. So if it's something that you want to do and see how it shakes out and stay with your current program for this year, that's completely okay. We're happy to run through the numbers because the actuary is going to look at the whole state in general. So adding the conservation districts to it isn't a huge lift for us. It's actually going to be a little bit more work for you guys to gather up the information, which hopefully you're doing with your brokers now. So.
And actually, I think almost all of the districts, if not maybe a handful, operate completely on a calendar year for their budgets and everything else. They pretty much stick to the calendar year. So that is a little off
Okay. Okay.
when
So
we're working with
what
them
we
on
could-
grants and stuff.
Yeah, what we could do is maybe do the actuarial study this year. And then what we would do is prorate you from January to June. You would come on to the pool in January, and then we would roll that to a 7/1 cycle. I know that's challenging from an accounting perspective because now you're in 2 years, because our fiscal year, it looks a little bit different, but we do have some off-cycle policies, and I know what a hassle it is from the accounting side of that. But it is something we're happy to do. We could roll that in, or you could make that change with your carrier July 1 if you like what you see from the risk management pool.
Great. There's a couple questions in chat I'll read for you. Is there a recommendation on the level of general insurance, 1 mil, 5 or 10 or 100?
The Governmental Immunity Act has limits set forth in it on how much a claimant could recover. They're set to adjust this year, but right now there are 387,000 per person and 1,093,000 per claim. So what we require of our contractors and what we recommend in that arena is $1 million. In your professional policy, what you may have are those shrinking limits where your defense coverage reduces the limit available in a settlement. And so if it was me, and I'm not a broker and I'm not, a legal advisor, but I would carry over that so that you still have that $1 million available under immunity to pay out a claim if one were to go to that level. And then you still have some defense coverage above that. So I would be looking at something in the 2 million. 5 and 10 is a lot, but if you're a large district with some assets, it might be something worth considering. And that might be a conversation you have with your broker or agent and outline for them governmental immunity and what those caps are. They will shift this year, probably July 1st. They'll go up by the cost of living for the Denver Boulder area. So on a 4-year cycle. So we may see those numbers go up quite a bit more than you would think for a cost of living adjustment. But I would stay in that arena of where those governmental immunity limits are. And that might be something you have to work with your agent on explaining. If you're not in the special districts pool, if you have a separate agent, they may not be as familiar with that.
And another question is, can we wait to formally commit to joining the pool until we know what our contribution would be?
Yes, you can. If we run you through the actuarial process and it's not cost effective for you, you can say, I don't want to do it at that time. Absolutely. And you don't have to do it this year. By all means, if it's something that you consider down the road, you can bring that in anytime.
Great. Well, again, everyone, all of this information will be shared out to the districts in an email. We'll put it on the district operation website to you for your reference. Thank you, Julie, Suzanne, and Will for coming and talking with us on this. This is a very helpful topic.
Yeah.
But if no one has any more questions, then we will wrap this up.
Wonderful.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
thanks,
Thank you,
everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.